These are scenes from Alaska. Just days ago, Putin was served his moment of triumph in a grand red-carpeted welcome by the US President Donald Trump. That too for a man labeled as a war criminal by the wider West. The international pariah, now a revered guest of Donald Trump. The American hypocrisy doesn't just end here. Cut to Tuesday, and the US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has accused India of war profiteering. This from its sharply increased purchases of Russian oil during the war in Ukraine. Maintaining Trump's stance, Bessent stated that Washington has viewed the situation as unacceptable. It should be noted that the US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's remarks follow senior White House trade advisor and economist Peter Navarro. In a newspaper column, Navarro spoke about how the proceeds from India's purchases of Russian oil are unbecoming of an American strategic partner. He accused India's politically connected energy titans of feeding Putin's war chest. So much so, when asked about China's imports, Bessent suggested that Beijing's imports were less egregious in the eyes of the Trump administration. Why? Because it was also a major buyer before and not after Russia invaded Ukraine.
President Putin, as your uncontrollable neighbor, you kind of brought over and showed your gun case to. I know part of what the administration has done has tried to make it tougher for Russia to be able to sell its oil. It cracked down pretty tough on India, which is importing a lot of Russian oil, but not so much when it comes to China. Is China in the wrong for importing so much Russian oil as well? I think they import just as much as India does.
Oh, well, let's go back and look at the history, though, Becky. And look, China importing it is suboptimal. But if you go back and look pre-22, pre-invasion, 13% of China's oil was already coming from Russia. Now it's 16%. So China has a diversified input of their oil. If you go back and look now, I believe India had less than 1% of their oil, 1%, and now I believe it's up to 42%. So wow. India is just profiteering, or they are just profiteering. They are reselling. They've made $16 billion in excess profits, some of the richest families in India. So this is a completely different thing. Like this India, what I would call the Indian arbitrage, buying cheap Russian oil, reselling it as product, has just sprung up during the war, which is unacceptable.
But here's why Bessent's argument falls flat. Because fact is, India actually started purchasing Russian oil in a major way, that too at the behest of the US. And no, we're not saying so. It's the US themselves. Sample this. A 2024 comment by former US Ambassador to India, Ambassador Eric Garcetti, has highlighted the US administration's self-contradictory stance on the issue. In fact, according to Garcetti, India's move was part of America's design of the policy. This to prevent a major oil price spike after the invasion of Ukraine that would result in high gasoline prices in the US. Listen to what Garcetti had to say.
Actually, they bought Russian oil because we wanted somebody to buy Russian oil at a price cap. That was not a violation or anything. It was actually the design of the policy because as a commodity, we didn't want oil prices going up, and they fulfilled that.
But Bessent's fresh attack on India's import of Russian oil has been quickly endorsed by the White House too, with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stating that the US president had imposed sanctions on India as part of a larger strategy. This to indirectly pressure Russia to stop the war in Ukraine. Leavitt emphasized that the additional 25% tariff on India was meant to squeeze Moscow. How? By targeting nations that continue to maintain economic ties with Russia. The White House has called it secondary pressure.
The president has put tremendous public pressure to bring this war to a close. He's taken actions, as you've seen, sanctions on India and other actions as well. He's made himself very clear that he wants to see this war end. And he has scoffed at the ideas of others that have been raised that we should wait another month before any meeting takes place. The president wants to move, and he wants to bring this war to an end as quickly as possible.
Now remember, Russia's envoy to India, Roman Babushkin, has already stated that his country has a very special mechanism to continue oil supplies to India. Babushkin has reiterated that India's crude oil imports from Russia will remain at the same level.
We know the challenging circumstances for India, and the point is that this is the true strategic partnership which we are enjoying. That means that we have earned the trust in our relations. Whatever happens, even there are some challenges, even the problems, we are committed to remove them in the relations. During the recent couple of years, it has increased 7 times. It means that we managed to find the solutions to any challenging situations.
But the moot question still remains. Why question India when the highest buyer is someone else? That too, when Washington openly encouraged and supported India's oil trade with Russia in the past. Let's do some number crunching. In data shared by Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air, or CREA, China bought the highest percentage of Russia's crude oil. Its purchase stands at 47% as of June 2025. Same is the case with coal, as China again bought a majority 45% of all Russia's coal exports as of June this year. Interestingly, Turkey, which happens to be a key NATO member, is the largest buyer of Russian oil product exports with 26% purchase. And here's more on West's double standards. EU's LNG purchase of Russia's LNG stands at a whopping 51%, as is also the case with pipeline gas, where EU is again the highest buyer at 37%. Interestingly, the US criticism of India has only underscored the rebuttal by India's External Affairs Ministry, exposing US hypocrisy, when the MEA spokesperson, Mr. Randhir Jaiswal, had stated, and I quote, "It is revealing that the very nations criticizing India are themselves indulging in trade with Russia. Unlike our case, such trade is not even a vital national compulsion."
Fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.